Welcome to Talk of the Town. I'm your host, Stacey Hansen. We've got a great show lined up for you today. My first guest is from New Awakenings. This is Kelly Kinderman. She's the owner as well as a therapist, and she's also one of our news partners. Welcome.
Thank you. Morning.
So today you're talking to us about eating disorders. Can you tell us a little bit about what it is? You see a lot of it in the media talking about it, but what truly is the definition?
Right. Eating disorders, you're right, you hear more and more about it now, but they've been around for a long time. But they're a really serious and sometimes life-threatening disturbance in eating patterns. And although they're treatable, they can be really complicated because a lot of times they're working in conjunction with another illness like depression or anxiety and trauma and addiction. So it can get a little bit messy, layered.
And there's a lot of different types too. Can you go into kind of explain what those are?
You're right. There's a lot of variations to eating disorders and it looks different for everyone, but the most well-known ones are anorexia, bulimia, and binge eating disorder. Anorexia is linked to the highest mortality rate for psychiatric disorders. People who suffer from that have a distorted idea of or perception of their body, their weight, and they tie their self-worth to that weight. They restrict their eating, their calories, and it can be really dangerous. Bulimia also is centered around weight control, but it comes from a different angle. It's easier to hide because a lot of times people who suffer from bulimia can keep their average body weight and hide it better, but they'll eat or they'll binge and then they'll force themselves to throw up or use laxatives or other diuretics or exercise excessively to maintain a certain weight. And then binge eating is exactly that. It's loss of control over how much you're eating. And most times people who have problems with binge eating are either overweight or at some point will become overweight or obese. So a lot of medical conditions that go along with that one as well.
Sure. And now, if someone out there is wondering if they have one or a loved one has one, what are some of the symptoms that people can look for?
There's a lot of them, and some are more noticeable, of course, like it's hard to hide excessive weight gain or weight loss, but also a change in social interaction. So if they're avoiding family or friend gatherings, that food is involved. If they're eating in isolation or saying a lot of times, I'm not hungry, I'll eat later, and they're never really sure if they eat. If there's a change in work performance, and more than likely your intimate relationships and friendships will be affected. But some not so noticeable ones are more devastating, actually. It's damage to our brain and our heart and our organs, bone and muscle mass wasting and breaking down, anemia, dehydration, more life-threatening things. With bulimia also looking for if you have a perpetual sore throat or swollen glands, or if you have a decay of the enamel on your teeth from overexposure to our stomach acids. So there's some things that, unless you're really close to somebody, you might not know, you might not notice, but they can be more devastating in the long run.
What types of people are the most likely to suffer from this? Is it mostly women? Is it a certain type of person, like maybe a really type A type of person?
Well, there is definitely a lot of research to try and find out, or to try and pinpoint some biological markers or social environmental things. But research does show that girls are 2.5 times more likely to have an eating disorder in their lifetime. Frequently it starts in adolescence or in your teen years, but I think it would be foolish to ignore these signs in anybody because anybody's susceptible to it, because it's not really about the eating or the food, right? It's more about some underlying internal struggle that they're going through. So I think everybody should be aware of watching for these signs with anybody in your life.
How is it treated then? Is this something that you can treat or that you can get over?
It is treatable. Unfortunately, there is a mortality rate attached to eating disorders because if they're long-term, there's other damage done to your body. But it is treatable. First and foremost, in severe cases, I would say seeking medical attention to stabilize your health again. In the context of therapy, I personally would use mindfulness and cognitive behavioral therapy to address some of the negative self-talk and perceptions they have of themselves, and then utilizing a nutritionist. But I think it's important to have a team of people helping, not just one.
Well, thanks so much, Kelly. It's really
Yeah.
good to get this information
Thank
out there,
you.
and maybe we help
Yes,
some people today.
It is important. Thank you for having me and allowing me to talk about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. And
Yep.
stay tuned. We'll have more Talk of the Town right after this.